The consensus trap. Why Bitcoin cannot keep up with its own success. Bitcoin's defining feature is its reliance on consensus. That feature is typically framed as a strength, an assurance that no single actor can arbitrarily change the system. But that same mechanism imposes a structural constraint that becomes more severe as the network grows. Bitcoin is not just software, it is a coordination system. Any meaningful change requires widespread agreement across a decentralized and increasingly heterogeneous set of participants. As the number of participants increases, the difficulty of reaching agreement rises, and the rate of adaptation correspondingly falls. This is not an incidental inefficiency. It is a scaling law. The more successful Bitcoin becomes, the more rigid it gets. The coordination burden grows with adoption, and with it, the cost of change. What begins as resistance to malicious alteration becomes resistance to all alteration. The system stabilizes itself into inertia. The history of SegWit activation illustrates this dynamic. A relatively modest technical upgrade required years of debate, factional conflict, and coordination across competing interests. The outcome was not rapid iteration but negotiated compromise under constraint. This is the expected behavior of a consensus-bound system operating at scale. It is slow not because participants are irrational, but because coordination itself is costly. Bitcoin's architecture compounds this limitation. Its base layer is an isolated, singular chain with one canonical state and one globally enforced rule set. Innovation must either occur within that rule set or be layered on top of it. But even secondary layers inherit the constraints of the base layer because they ultimately depend on it for settlement and enforcement. This creates a serial innovation structure. Competing ideas must pass through a single bottleneck, and only one trajectory can be selected at a time. Every other path is delayed, discarded, or forced into indirect implementation. This is the consensus trap. A system designed to prevent undesirable change becomes structurally incapable of desirable change at the pace required by its environment. As the network grows, participants become more risk-averse, more invested in the status quo, and less willing to accept disruptive upgrades. The result is a declining rate of evolution precisely when the system faces increasing external complexity. A reputation-based system built on a transparent historical data layer operates under a fundamentally different model. Instead of a single rule set enforced by global agreement, it provides a shared informational substrate, an open record of actions, on top of which multiple scoring systems can be constructed. Each scoring system represents a different interpretation of value, and these interpretations are not mutually exclusive. They do not require consensus to exist, to evolve, or to be adopted. In this framework, innovation is parallel rather than serial. Competing models can emerge simultaneously, each refining its approach independently. Improvements propagate through adoption, not approval. If a scoring system becomes more accurate or more useful, it gains users. If it fails, it loses relevance without imposing systemic costs. There is no need for global coordination to validate experimentation. Because these systems are modular, they are also composable. Any improvement can be copied, modified, and extended by others without permission. The barrier to iteration is technological rather than political. This produces a fundamentally different evolutionary dynamic. Instead of a single path negotiated through consensus, there are many paths explored concurrently, with selection occurring through usage and performance. Bitcoin requires commitment to a single protocol. A user either accepts the rule set or exits the system. A reputation-based framework allows partial and overlapping participation. Users can evaluate multiple scoring systems simultaneously, shift between them, or combine them. This dramatically lowers the cost of experimentation and accelerates the rate at which better models emerge. The contrast becomes clearer as scale increases. Bitcoin's growth amplifies its coordination problem. More participants mean more conflicting preferences, more entrenched interests, and higher switching costs. Evolution slows as stability increases. In a reputation-based system, growth has the opposite effect. More participants generate more data, more models, and more competition among those models. Evolution accelerates as the system expands. This difference is not cosmetic. It determines which system can adapt under changing conditions. Bitcoin achieves credibility by constraining change, but that credibility comes at the cost of responsiveness. A modular reputation system sacrifices rigid uniformity but gains the ability to evolve continuously in response to new information. The core distinction is between selection through agreement and selection through competition. Bitcoin filters change through consensus, which ensures stability but limits adaptability. A reputation-based system allows change to emerge from decentralized experimentation, where the most effective models propagate without requiring universal approval. In an environment defined by rapid technological and economic shifts, the systems that dominate will not be those that best resist change, but those that integrate and act on new information most effectively. Consensus imposes a ceiling on that process. A system that requires agreement to evolve will always lag behind one that evolves through unrestricted competition among ideas. Bitcoin chose immutability as its foundation. That choice secures its past, but constrains its future.